Allen, what do you feel legislators need to focus on most in 2018?
Well, the state constitution tells us the budgets. We have two budgets in Alabama. One deals with education, and the other deals with the general fund, which is public safety, health department, and all the other things that Medicaid. So the budgets it's very important that we deal with those two items in a way where the public will understand that we're using their tax dollars very wisely.
Okay, so budgets is what we need to focus on.
Yeah, as far as, I mean, that's the Constitution. The Constitution has charged us as elected officials to take care of those budgets. And of course, there's many other issues that we need to focus in on. But that's the main purpose of the state constitution, is to make sure the budgets are dealt with.
Okay. What goals do you plan to accomplish this year?
What goals?
What goals in the bills and stuff like that you plan to?
Well, we have several pieces of legislation, and just mention a couple of those. We dealing with terrorism, and that's one piece of legislation to deal with that, and to go after the assets of those individuals who plan and finances those attacks against good citizens of Alabama. So that's one piece. And then adult stem cell piece is to help on chronic diseases, and of course we're working with the health care community and UAB and the Hospitals Association, and to come up with the right piece of legislation. So we do have a piece, but have not moved it yet, because there's some other issues involved that we've got to make sure that there's no conflict. So the adult stem cell. Of course, someone asked me recently, will I be open the door for embryonic stem cell? And that's absolutely no. I will never ever go there because of that issue, because of the unborn. But the adult stem cell shows some very promising results on chronic diseases.
Okay. What made you want to enter the political world?
Well, it just, of course, I'm ending my 24th year of public service. 16 of those years was in the Alabama House. And of course, I'm ending my second term as a state senator. And the purpose, and I felt like that I had something to offer, and to, in terms of what values and principles that I believe in, represents those of many of my constituents in which I serve today. And so, yes, just making sure that the citizens will have a good, strong voice in Montgomery.
Okay. What is your greatest accomplishment you are most proud of? Because you went on that you served 24 years of this year, so what is your greatest accomplishment?
Well, I would have to say that there's several of those, actually, but one of the three, I'm gonna mention three, I think it'd be good. When I was a freshman here in Montgomery as a House member, that's when the Mercedes plant decided to locate here in Alabama. In doing so, Alabama officials made some promises to them, and I carried a piece of legislation that fulfilled the promises of the state of Alabama to Mercedes. And so, as you know today, we have a quite success story with Mercedes plant here with 4,500 employees. Not only that, but other car makers noticed what was taking place here in Alabama, and they decided, said, well, if Mercedes can come to Alabama and be successful, why can't we? So the store has been very successful. And then the photo ID bill, where when a voter goes into a precinct or to a voting poll, then that person, must show a photo ID. This is who I am. And I carried that bill in the House for 15 years, and the Democratic committee killed that bill 15 straight years, until we was elected in 2010, where the Republicans gained control of both houses, the House and the Senate. In 2010, I carried that photo ID bill, and it passed, and the people of Alabama approved it. with the constitutional amendment.
Okay.
The other piece is sports agents. And back in 1998, I carried a piece of legislation and wrote all the states in the country and asked them how they dealt with sports agents. And so what took place is that I got correspondence from all over the country, all over the nation, and they finally submitted their ideas and how they deal with sports agents. And come to find out, every state had a different way to deal with sports agents. So I combined some information that I gathered from all the states and made one piece where it's a uniform piece where when a sports agent goes into Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, or New York, California, they're operating on the same set of rules and to protect the universities and those student athletes. So those three items, of course there's many other pieces of legislation that I passed, but I would have to say those had some major impacts, not only here in Alabama, but across the nation.
What types of legislation do you feel the most involved in?
Well, when you come to Montgomery, you're going to see a very broad variety of issues, and as far as social issues, like what can we do to protect the unborn babies, or protecting the Second Amendment right, or dealing with healthcare issues like the Medicaid issues, like CHIPS. CHIPS is the insurance program for children, for rural Alabama and for other children that does not have insurance, and so that is so it's a broad range of issues that you must deal with, and of course every legislator down here has their own specialty, which I depend on. We have two medical doctors, and we have an eye doctor here. So when medical questions comes up, then we have resources that we can go to. We have two medical doctors and an eye doctor that we can turn to and say, help us with this. How can we improve this piece of legislation? Do you like this legislation? Them being physicians and doctors, it does help to have that very highly trained physician in the state senate. Okay. So we lean on individuals who have specialties.
So people who were already senators but have had prior jobs, is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. In light of the recent school shootings in Florida, what ideas do you have to prevent more in the future?
Well, continue to look at the school buildings and to ensure that no one can gain entrance into a building. I think that's very important. The second thing is to put in place some policies that can recognize and notice where there may be some mental illnesses, where some activities maybe at home that create some issues with mental illnesses, and so I think having counselors and having people in the right positions to notice and to be able to counsel children and young adults on some issues that may be taking place in their lives. But going back to what I said just a moment ago, having the building secure and having someone, a public safety official on campus will always be a huge asset for them.
So going back to identifying if there is a mental illness problem or any problem like that, do you think the FBI could have stopped the problem?
Well, for instance, like the Florida shooting, there was some correspondence that took place with that issue, and unfortunately the FBI dropped the ball, and so it may be a good time for us to maybe take a good look at administrative activities within public safety levels, talking about the local, state, and the federals, and see how we can bring those three together and have a streamline of information where everyone will see the same information at the same time. And so, yes, I do think that is very important that we pursue and make sure that when we receive word or information that a student or a young adult or someone in the community's got an issue, got a problem, or someone talks about going to the school or going to a public place to bring harm to individuals, I think it's very important for us to follow up with those leads, which did not take place in the Florida incident.
What is your favorite part of being a state senator through all of your years?
Well, it's just seeing results of developing good, sound public policy that will benefit the public, benefit the taxpayers, and for those groups and our great state. For instance, just like the Mercedes plant. I mean, that is a beautiful story that has happened in this great state, and that brings a lot of pleasure to me to know that we have men and women, not only at the plant but all the suppliers across Tuscaloosa, West Alabama, and Alabama. I mean, you can go to Montgomery, you can go to Huntsville, you can go to Talladega and see all the automobile plants and see all the suppliers and see what's happening. And the nation and the international marketplace looks at Alabama a little bit differently now because we've proven ourselves. That makes me proud to know that we had a hand in putting in place policies that will help people make a good quality salary and make a good quality of living. So it makes me very proud to see that happen.
And then last question, what advice would you give to someone like me who is interested in getting involved in politics?
Well, that's a good question. I would encourage young people like yourself to read the newspaper, pay attention to the current events, see what's happening with the city and the county school boards, and the local governments, like the city of Tuscaloosa, city of Northport, keep up what's going on there, and then at the same time once you feel comfortable about writing a letter or making a phone call to your school board member or your county commissioner or your city council person or your state senator, even to the governor's office, even to the White House, or even to Senator Shelby's office, So it's great value to know that young people can play a critical role in helping elected officials to understand issues a bit better when you get involved. And that's very important.
Well, thank you.
I've enjoyed this interview, and thank you. Keep up the good work, okay?